Welcome back to the arena, and I am Michael Corrin, as far as I remember. It's the Friday Rumble, and it's a different coupling this week. Grant Lafleche is a reporter and columnist at the St. Catharine Standard. Tarek Fatah isn't. He's an author and a columnist. I'm a mere referee between two battling intellects, or so it says up there. I don't believe it myself. Let's begin with Stephen Harper's anti-terrorism legislation. You wrote about this,
yes,
and you're a terrible raving liberal. So I suppose you think he shouldn't be angry with terrorists, I suppose.
No, my issue is actually with the point at which he says we want to outlaw some forms of speech that would, and he's very vague about it, which is my issue, to either that would promote or glorify terrorism.
Right.
And
hold on, I've just been told you're not allowed to say that.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Put me in cuffs. Put me in cuffs. No, my concern is the vagueness of his talk and Peter MacKay's talk about it. We already have laws on the books against, libel, death threats, hate speech, and they're narrowly defined, and they work. So I'm not quite sure what he's up to, and it seems to me he's just pushing that kind of a little too far, and I'm unconvinced it'll make us safer.
Okay, I agree with you to a certain extent. We do have laws, and some of them I don't even completely agree with. But people have got away with a great deal in, if not directly promoting, enabling terrorism. What they've done in France is to say, I'm sorry, this is no longer a game. People are dying. If you are in any way celebrating terrorism, you're going to be in trouble.
My view has always been that if you're going to have free speech, you have to have free speech for those views that you despise. Now, there is a line there, but in France this week we saw an 8-year-old detained by police because this kid had said something in favor of the Charlie Hebdo murders.
But he wasn't really, I mean, if you look into that story, he wasn't really detained. He was questioned in a very sympathetic way by a cop with a child welfare officer. He wasn't taken away in handcuffs. They were shocked at what he was saying. But France is in crisis. They've had a lot of their citizens murdered.
Right, and when we face a crisis like that, we can't go so far that we start chipping away at the freedoms, the people who would burst into a magazine.
Fair enough. Tarek?
I don't know what freedom he's talking about. What freedom have you lost?
Well, not yet.
Even if, the bill's there. It was announced today. This is just... I think a knee-jerk reaction with people who have never experienced anything as a result of Islamofascism have. It's not going to affect anyone, so you can have an opinion saying he's gone too far to curtail free speech. What free speech? I mean, you've still got every mosque in this city, in this country, allowing perfectly legal for them to call for the defeat of the rest of Canada. I don't see anyone going over there saying use existing laws.
I don't agree with your premise. I don't think every mosque is calling for the defeat of Canada.
Yes, it is.
Well,
every mosque is. Yes, every mosque is.
In Niagara, we have a very progressive
don't use that word.
Imam there who I mean, part of his problem is he has an immigrant population that comes to our community, some of which may carry the kind of ideas that we find objectionable. And he has to kind of find a way to say, no, in fact, the Canadian values are worth defending.
What can he say? You don't even know what he says.
Have you been to the
Yes, of course I have.
Have you talked to the
Yes,
to the
I've talked to them. You can't have the play. What do you mean?
Well, I'm saying, are you
talking of the Karachi
no, in St. Catharines.
St. Catharines? This is happening. You would never hear it. Thousands are dead because there are people sitting around.
When you say every mosque,
I'm saying
you
that.
open yourself up to ridicule because it cannot be true, every mosque.
Oh, you are free to ridicule me.
I'm not.
And 14 years of nonsense has tens of thousands of people dead, 200,000 just in one country alone, and yet you have every upper middle class white intellectual saying, oh, it can't be true.
Well,
of course it's true.
I am an intellectual and a superb one. No, but in all seriousness, you're speaking to me. I've written a whole book about hatred about Islam. I've been threatened too, but it's not every mosque.
It is every mosque.
Many have come forward to say to me, thank you for saying this.
Come on, sue me.
What's that got to do with it? It's litigation.
I am saying that this is happening right under your nose, but you're too uncomfortable to take it on.
No.
Of course, it's cowardice.
Listen, there's one thing.
Have you attended a Friday prayer?
Absolutely.
And what do they say in the prayer?
They don't know. Listen, there's two.
Let him finish, please.
There's two issues on the table here.
Yes.
Is Stephen Harper, by saying some kinds of speech will be outlawed because it promotes terrorism and is bad, we want to cut off their recruiting? That's not going to make anybody safer.
Why?
We can actually break down outlaw biker gangs, the mob, international drug cartels. Now, hear me out. We can infiltrate those groups, arrest them, build cases, break them down with existing laws. If you want to get at,
biker gangs?
If you want to get at recruiting that might be going on in mosques in Canada.
It's not recruiting.
You need to get people in those mosques who can listen and learn.
But right, we do know from other countries' experience that when terrorism is glorified on social media,
Yes.
there are a minority of course, but a number of people, particularly 16, 17, 18, young men who have a lot of time on their hands who think it's it's a turn on for them.
Not.
And it's not quite I mean, that might sound banal, but it has turned people into radicals. If we can control some of this, it should be illegal to glorify in the deaths of other people, surely, to encourage the deaths of other people.
I mean, if your speech is, I mean, if I want to be like some kind of latter-day Guy Fawkes and blow up Parliament, and I'm trying to recruit the two of you to come with me with my internet postings or something, but you can already come after me legally for that.
You
That's
don't
already
even
criminal.
know.
So. But to your point, I mean, part of Harper's problem by saying, well, we're going to just have this, how do you control a world now where we have instant information? I mean, if I really want to find the rantings of an Islamic cleric, I can find it online easily.
No, just a second. After 14 years, you still don't know, as an educated person, as a journalist, as a columnist, what exactly is the issue.
What is it I don't know? Tell us what the issue is.
The issue is Islamofascism, of which you do not wish to confront, and which the head of U.S. military forces in the Middle East, just because he happens to be a Japanese American, he had the guts to say that. I don't even know what the idea is, let alone attack the idea. Sitting in arrogance and saying, we know what it is, right, when you know absolutely nothing.
The French president, the French prime minister, the mayor of Rotterdam, leaders of many European countries, I would agree that President Barack Obama has been ambivalent at best, but many people... Not the
French president.
But many people are speaking of what is actually going on.
In this country, other than Stephen Harper, no one.
Well, he's the prime minister.
1 second.
He's the prime minister.
1 second. Yes, but he's criticizing the prime minister.
Aspects of the legislation.
Yes. What aspects of the legislation?
That might limit our freedom to be wrong.
Which freedom is being limited? I'm asking you that.
Well, first, I'm going to take objection when you say, I'm too afraid to confront Islamofascism. I've written about the need to confront it militarily. My own family is a military family. I have a brother who's
got nothing to
hold on, let him finish.
To fight the Taliban. My issue is with the vague, broad notion that Stephen Harper and Peter McCare sort of pitching this, some of this terror legislation. Now, but to say that nobody in the West is talking about what's actually happening with ISIS and Islamic radicalism, that's just patently false. It's patently false.
I'm suggesting to you that you don't know it. And that's precisely why what you knew in the Second World War, you were able to defeat, and in the Cold War, and in this case, 99% of...
But you're not telling us what are we missing? What are we missing?
You're missing Islam and you're missing Islamism. And you dare not confront
it. Are they the same thing?
No,
I dare not confront it?
But you do not know the difference between the two.
I think
Number
I do.
two.
I think I do, Tarek. I've seen it often. I know the difference between those who are peaceful, pious Muslims, the majority, and those who are interpreting Islam as a political ideology and want to kill people.
The issue is using Islam as a political ideology, right?
Yes.
And every mosque is praying with tax-funded dollars, asking God to defeat non-Muslims at the hand of Muslims. And you are stating
Tarek,
to me...
If you're talking,
1 second.
No, but Tarek,
let me finish.
You can't just bully. Listen, Tarek, listen for a moment.
I have to
if
finish.
You're talking about an archaic prayer that talks for the victory about the victory of Islam,
archaic.
that's not relevant.
That's not archaic. That's not archaic. It has been there at the fundamental level at which it's happening, and it is so astonishing that you rather believe that
we have to break. It is our cake and I'll eat it too. Back in a few moments with a lot more... Now, I'd like to say that in the commercial break they were really getting along, but that would be a lie, because they weren't. But hey, it's all part of real television. Segue, it's not completely unrelated, but it's different. Judy Scrow is a Liberal MP, and I said this yesterday, and seriously, I'm not meaning disrespect, but I know Judy, and I don't think she is a particularly bright politician, and I think she often speaks without thinking. I knew her when she was a city councillor and that she's an MP. Now, she's a Liberal, but it seems to me that her politics are rather all over the place. Sorry, Judy, but I do have to speak my mind. I want to put some boards up now of what she said. And if you read this, it's all about Harper. You know, he's getting people scared and fearful. ISIL is coming here. And if they're coming here, it's because... This is the thing. She blames Harper. She says if they're coming here, it's because of what Stephen Harper has said. Now, all of the objective analysis about the activities of Islamic radicals concludes the same thing. Has nothing to do with what a victim country says about Islam or Islamic radicalism. The terrorism will still come to you. It doesn't matter at all. I remember many, many years ago when Palestinian terrorists, pre-Islamists, I suppose, put a bomb in Vienna. Bruno Kreisky, the socialist, very pro-Palestine, anti-Israel chancellor of Austria, a Jewish man, actually, he said, what have you done? I'm on your side and you put a bomb here? Charlie Hebdo, pro-Palestinian, against the Israeli attack on Gaza. Has nothing to do with how you behave. They want to kill you. Judy, try and understand what is really going on. I find this, and I hate to use this phrase, but I do find it offensive. This is a serious issue, and she's behaving like a child.
I don't understand the Liberals. I don't understand their point of view on this. I mean, in as much as I think that there's a point to be said that I think Harper's pushing this so we can club the Liberals with it because they're so muddled. I mean, if you're going to find an electoral position this year to beat Justin Trudeau over the head with, has to be national security. But for her to sort of suggest, and Liberals sort of suggest, that this is all fear-mongering, that we shouldn't, you remember when Harper said, well, if they shoot us, we're going to kill them, and the Liberals had this fit and the NDP had this fit over it. It's ridiculous. Of course you're going to shoot back. What are our guys supposed to do? You know, throw flowers at them or something?
And whilst Judy Scrow might say this, I would be convinced the mass of Liberal voters would support Harper.
But isn't there a problem with the Liberal leadership is kind of muddled? I don't know what the massive Liberals are necessarily saying. I know, I know those that I talk to.
Trudeau, his response was very, I mean, he wouldn't condemn her publicly, but quite clearly, implicitly, he was saying, nothing to do with us. What do you think, Tarek?
I don't think Trudeau has reacted to the bill being presented in the House of Commons today.
What about Judy's comments there?
Well, Judy, I'm shocked that she keeps getting elected. I really think she doesn't deserve to be a member of Parliament. I think a whole lot of people just get elected, and it's a sad reflection on Toronto's electorate. How would someone so dumb end up... she was once a minister, wasn't she?
I think she may have been, yeah.
Yeah, how could she have been? She should have been relegated to municipal politics in some godforsaken place somewhere where it didn't matter, and now she's talking about ISIL. Does she even know what she's talking about? I mean, who talks like that? ISIL, 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 ISIL. Like, is this a high school debate? And she's talking about a serious issue. We are at war. I mean, tens of thousands of people are dead. And you've got a member of parliament of a Liberal party, of a woman who supported gay rights and voted reluctantly on many of the social issues within the Liberal Party, standing up as if ISIL is the innocent party, and we, Canada...
Certainly, I don't think that's an overreaction. I mean, there was certainly a sort of a vague assumption that ISIL weren't the problem here. They are the problem. How we deal with them is an issue, but they are the problem.
The baffling bit, I mean, if you step back to look at some of the other things Trudeau has said up to this point, where he wants to talk about humanitarian aid and, you know, getting at
warm weather clothing.
Yeah, I kind of get at warm weather clothing in the Middle East.
Unless you give us really good parkas, we will kill you.
Send some Sorel boots over while they're at it. But there's sort of this idea that the Liberals want to pitch that we're going to get at the core of radicalism if we can improve. Well, you can't address social issues or economic issues while the gunfire is going on.
Exactly. Okay, speaking of social issues, in Ontario, Kathleen Wynne, the Ontario Liberal Premier, says sex education has to be reformed. That may well be true, but her reformation does sound rather radical. Do you support at least what we're hearing about these proposals?
Yes and no. I mean, I sort of like you. I think it needs to be updated. I think especially when you have instant technology that kids can, you know, sexting and stuff has caused problems for young people as young as 12 or 13. My question though is, where do you start teaching them that where they can sort of really understand it? And I think parents have been excluded a bit too much. It has to happen. I think it has to happen.
Do you think parents have to be involved or have to be at least consulted?
I think they need to be consulted, and they need to be consulted in a probably for an issue this sensitive, probably in a more direct way.
Tarek?
I think parents should have a veto on this.
A veto?
Yes. I think I was deeply offended when the Premier of this province used two 13-year-old girls as props.
Yeah, that was a bit...
I thought it was something where there has to be some legislation to protect the identity of children, where politicians bring up teenage girls to say, there wasn't even a young man over there. What it centered around, this is all about women. And there you have it, two young women. I was astonished that the Premier would do that. I am all for sex education, but I also know that the component nature of a student body is such that you simply cannot have a one-size-fits-all.
Well, I don't think the parents have a veto. I mean, that sets a precedent where it's like, well, I don't like what's going on in the science class, veto that. I don't like what's...
No, this is not about science.
You know, no, hold on. No. I think that is a very false construction. No rational person says, I don't want you teaching the history of the Reformation in the 16th century.
Yeah.
And if you do, tough. This is about something which is deeply personal and visceral and emotional.
But the reality is what goes on in the home and what goes on in the school are often universes apart, especially with information technology.
It can be.
I mean, it's not like when I was I'm the youngest guy at the table probably, but I'm not when I was in school. Certainly not when you were in school. We didn't have that technology. It's easy to hide stuff from parents.
But we did have sex.
Well, yes, we did.
Speak for yourself. I'm still hoping. I'm 56. Who knows what the weekend will bring?
But I just think that we need to arm young people with knowledge that's going to protect them.
It's not about knowledge. I mean, you're sitting with 20 kids in a class. You have young girls and boys with very different backgrounds from the home suddenly talking about anal sex and oral sex. I mean, Farzana Hassan has written a wonderful column in the Toronto Sun today. You won't call her a prude. I mean, she's socially liberal. And I'm saying if she finds it deeply troubling, I can tell you there would be numerous families in this city who said, what? Why can't this be a one-on-one?
I think there are many teachers and decent people who are going to say, oh my golly, really? I have to teach this to these giggling kids. I'm embarrassed, they're embarrassed. It's one thing for a government to say this is a curriculum. Another for ordinary, decent teachers to have to teach it to kids who are saying, oh, come on.
Well, that's uncomfortable. We all remember when we took sex ed in school, right? That it was somewhat uncomfortable.
Well, I don't, because apparently I was taught in the 18th century.
Yeah,
so.
well. I just think, look, there's a reality now with information technology that if it's not addressed in the school, there's no guarantee addressed.
All right, I'm going to find out where that information is when the show ends. Gentlemen, have a great weekend, and thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.